Okay, so I've got the model starting to come together with the materials assigned, and it's a point where I want to start putting in some lights. I'll just show you the views that I have of the level I mainly want to focus on, where I'm going to put lots of lights into the underside of the joists and beams there. And so I have another one, here we go. So for the time being, I've just placed studio lights in there. So that's probably a good starting point when you begin to look at lights. Make sure you know about the studio light, which is a light you'll find in the default Revit library and pretty much every Revit library you'll ever find. There should be a studio light in there. So it's an easy one to find if you go to component. I've opened up my ceiling plan just because you'll see them there as you place them. And so again, just going to the component tool, load family, and then in the lighting folder, you don't even need to go to the other one, just here in the default, internal, and then you'll find studio light. So it's a very simple light, and I'll bring it in again. You might find when you place it, so I need to choose it from the list over here because I've loaded it previously. If you can't see it, just check the height of the light. So you can always place it and then go and have a look in a section to find how high the light is from the floor. And you can see there in my section view, I can clearly see that light there above the ground. Because you can lift the light up and down, but it does also have a height property when you go to edit type. You can see here the height is 2400. So that means if you can't see it in your ceiling plan, you might need to check your visibility settings or your probably your view range over here. But I'll go further into that when I look at putting lights into a ceiling. So studio lights are good because they can be floating in space and you don't need to worry about how they're hosted. And so again, looking at the view here, they're floating, and I have a exposed ceiling structure there, or floor structure, and there's no ceiling. So I can't put lights that are ceiling hosted into that area. So after I do this, I'll show how to make lights from scratch. But what I'm going to do first is go to my level 2 floor plan. So you can see I've started to just work out some hotel rooms on the floor above, just so that I've got some spaces where I can show you the some lights with ceilings, or some lights that are hosted by a ceiling. So it's a good chance to just go over the making of ceilings as well if you haven't done that for a little while. So again, I'm just going to have a quick look in the section view and have a look at this area, so that you can see we've got level 2 there with level 3 above it, and the distance between those is, not sure, I'm going to measure 3390. Okay, so back to my floor plan. You can make a ceiling there, but you won't see it. If you go to or if I go to my level 2 ceiling plan instead, that's a reflected ceiling plan, so it's looking up towards the ceiling from that floor plate, and so when I make a ceiling here I should see it. So I'm going to go to the ceiling tool now, and you can see there that because it's an enclosed space, automatic ceiling should work. So you can see there with that red outline, that's the shape I'll get using automatic ceiling. And they're really good for enclosed spaces like this. So I'm simply going to choose these two areas. I'll click into that bathroom space, and that's going to give me a ceiling height here of 2600. And I should be able to see that ceiling. It's hard to tell that it's there because it's a plain ceiling. But if I just cancel that, and then now using tab I can select it, and you can see there it's highlighted. I can always change the height having already made it, so we've got quite a bit of space there, so I could bring that up higher to 2700 easily, and maybe even higher than that. So I'll go back to the ceiling tool, and I could use the same method to create a ceiling in the main room there. And also change the height over here before I make it, so maybe I'll make this one, try and get it as high as possible, so maybe 3000. Might need to bring it down a little bit depending on the services, but with hotel rooms like this you can often have the duct for the air conditioning, say running along the, have a bulkhead running along next to the bathroom or something like that, and then get higher ceiling space in the rest of the room. So there are ways of getting that ceiling space. So I'll just try putting it in at 3000. Again, I can't see it there, but if I go to my section view, because the section is cutting through that space, I can see the ceiling there as well. Okay, now if you have trouble seeing the ceiling, I'll just show you an example where you might have issues. If I go to the ground floor, okay, now you maybe are going to have a ceiling here anyway, but I just want to use this as an example. I'll go to my ground floor ceiling plan. So the first thing to realise is that you go to the floor or the level for the floor below the ceiling you're trying to make. So a common mistake people will make is, maybe in this case, they would think, well, I want the ceiling I'm making to go right up under level 1. So they'll go to the level 1 ceiling plan and not ground floor. The ceiling will be closer to level 1, but we're viewing it from ground floor and looking up. Because again, it's a reflected ceiling plan. So when I go to ceiling now, I'll try to place it. Well, actually, it's detecting the room here pretty well. I just want it to go in a small area here, so I might just, instead of automatic ceiling, go to sketch ceiling. And so with sketch ceiling, you can draw any shape you like. It's just like making a floor with all the regular drawing tools. And so I'm just going to try making one in this area here. So I'll go to, well, I'll just draw lines actually. Yes, I'll go around that column. Something like that. And maybe this, in the end, will need to move over. I've got a beam there. And as always, Revit tries to do the thinking for you. You sometimes have to go and fix it up. Okay, so I'll finish that, and now I might have trouble finding it. If I try to select there, let's see, it may come up. Yes, okay, so I've actually got it there. And if I go to a shaded view, now the floor's in the way, so that's part of it. So it's behind these things. But the other issue is my view. So this is another common issue you need to think about when you make ceilings. In your ceiling plan view, you'll often need to go into the properties for that view, which we've got up here. So it's on ceiling plan. Scroll down to the bottom and look at the view range. So clicking there, you can see this has a cut plane, 2300, and the top is set to the level above, which is, oh, now sorry, I thought I had a level in between. I did this differently, so let's just have a look. Oh, yeah, level 1 lower, so it's not saying what it's actually doing. So the level above is level 1 lower. Now because I made the ceiling plan before that level, it's picking up the level above, which is level 1 FFL, but level 1 FFL is not actually the level above, which is interesting. So unless it's the cut plane, let's just go back to that. So oh yeah, so we'll look at the section quickly again though. So you can see there that the level above, level 1 lower, is 2830 above ground floor. So that cut plane for a start is too high. So I'm going to go to view range and bring that cut plane down. I think just from a practical point of view, I've worked on a lot of reflected ceiling plans to show lighting, but also a lot of other services, and it's helpful to know where the openings are, especially doors. And if you cut planes above those, you can't see them in your ceiling plan, and it just makes the planning more difficult. So I always like to bring the cut plane down to cut through the doors as well as the windows. I'll press apply. So notice now that I can see this opening here that wasn't there before, this door as well, and I can't see the windows that are on the level above. Okay, so then let's go back and look at the view range and see. Yeah, it's strange that that the actual level above is not coming up there, but that's okay anyway. I'm going to set this to that level and have the offset there 500. That's okay as well, actually. So looking in the section here, you can see the ceiling is above the floor, right? And that's why we can only see part of it. So going back into here, the white part is the ceiling and the grey part is the floor. So I could set that using a measurement from the ground floor, but another way of doing it is just to go into properties and change the level to level 1 lower and set a measurement below that. So I'm going to make that maybe minus, I don't know, let's just say minus 100 for now, or maybe, no, minus 200. And now I can see it. Alright, so I basically made a bulkhead under the floor. Should be easier to select now, but it's still got the floor joists in the way, so going back to the section, I can refine that a bit further. Now this section isn't picking up everything, so let's just select that and find out why. Oh, because maybe I don't have, yeah, I probably haven't put floor joists in for all of that, so I've just got the joist over here. Oh, which is this right up there, okay, and that's part of the group, that's why I can't modify it. Okay, so you can select the ceiling in a section and then go back to a plan view and edit it. Let's bring that over. And maybe I'll do that here as well. Okay, so I've got a ceiling there showing clearly now, and so it might not be all that clear the way I've done it, but it is important to understand that you do often need to go in and change your view range settings, even to be able to see ceilings sometimes, because if you've got levels in between the level of your view and the level that the ceiling's on, say it's a shame that it's not showing it here, but it might be showing. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just put a setting in that will show you what I'm talking about. If this top is down at associated level, ground floor, and then I put an offset of say 2000, do the same for the view depth. Now we can't see all of those things that are up above because the view range is too low. So yeah, yeah, about 1500 probably. Yeah, and then it's the depth. The top is above, but the view depth goes down. But in a ceiling plan, the view depth goes up. It's just one of those things. It reverses. Yeah. You can, or you can even have it going below. So the depth is like an additional setting, and so in a floor plan you can have the bottom set maybe at the level of the view, and then the depth going down further, so that things on the level below show up greyed out, but they're still visible. Yeah, so it's just an extra depth setting, so you can see things below with different graphics. Yeah, the top's a bit of a confusing one with floor plans, but it means you can pick up things that are above the cut plane, which is sometimes handy for, you know, kitchen cabinets and things like that that are raised. Yeah. So if anything, it's a little bit clearer with reflective ceiling plans because you don't have that bottom option. That's just disabled altogether. So I'm going to put this back to the settings I had. So level above for both top and view range. And for ceiling plans, you probably can just make these two things the same. So I'll make them both 500 above that level. And there we go. So now I'm going to place a new light. So I'm going to go component, load family, and then go to the lighting folder, architectural, internal, and you'll see all these lights that are mostly ceiling hosted. So ceiling fan, ceiling light, flat round, linear box, downlight recessed can, downlight spot, downlight strip. Not that one, but then these pendants as well. They're all ceiling hosted. So they need a ceiling for you to be able to place them. So I'll get maybe the downlight spot. And now you can see I can't place it in this area where I just have the floor structure there, but I can here because I've got a ceiling there. Right, so going to the level where I've made my other ceiling. Same thing, if I go component now, I can place ceilings in the bathroom or in this hotel room, but not in the corridor there because I don't have a ceiling there yet. Now if I go back and get one of the wall hosted lights, so you've got a few of those. So, the sconce, and here we go, so the sconce is there. And they work pretty well for hotels. Okay, so you can place those, but notice you often can't see these in ceiling plans, again because of the view range. So I'm going to go back now to view range, and my cut plane, I don't know why they set it so high. I think that is probably, that's technically how you're supposed to do it, but again I think it just makes it harder. So there we are. Something some people do in ceiling plans is hide the doors. So I've brought the view range down and it's showing the doors, and you don't really need to see the door opening or the door swing. So I can just hide that category. And now I can at least see the sconces as well as any other lights that I place. So I'm going to go back to load family, lighting, architectural, internal. So you've got this one here that's good for recessed lights, downlight recessed can. But I'll place a few and I'll just show you something, a problem I've always had with it. So let's put a few in there. Okay, so it's working, and just to make it clear, I can't place it in the other rooms yet because I don't have ceilings there, obviously. So, okay, now I could make these be positioned better, but it's fairly easy to line them up after you've placed them. One good tool you can use is the align tool there. So this wall's basically perpendicular, and so you'll find an alignment edge going in each of those horizontal and vertical directions built into the light. And now I can choose the next one. So same thing again. Now to go this way I'd need to put a reference plane in. So I won't do that just yet. So what I really wanted to show you though is that if I now make a camera view and render that, so we'll just do something like this. Well, firstly, it's got a very narrow field of view, so for small spaces like this, you'll often need to bring the field of view right out to see anything much. Okay, so I could get a better bed, but just to get you started with the rendering, I'll stick with that one. Might just bring it out from the wall slightly. And bring it up a little bit. Okay, so if I do a quick render on that, it's going to click on the teapot and go to interior. I'll just do artificial only, so we can see the lighting on its own. So even on draft, you'll see the problem. Okay, so you can see it renders pretty quickly on draft, and you can test out things. So firstly, it's a little bit dark, but that's not the main issue. I can easily fix that just by going to adjust exposure, and we'll make it a little brighter. Now, it can be tempting to change the temperature because it's a very warm lighting at the moment. So here, if you change the white point and make that cooler, that will compensate for that. But that will give you problems later. So I mean, it's good to know about that option. But I'm going to set it back to the default and do it a bit differently. No. You just use Chrome, or so if you're using, it depends on the browser you're using. But if you use Chrome, it works pretty well. Yeah, it seems to work better than the others. Firefox, I think, will do it too. Yeah, it's all about the browser. It shouldn't need to re-render when you're adjusting that. And if it does, or if it's causing any problems, just do it in Photoshop. You've got photo filters in Photoshop which do exactly the same thing. But I'm going to do it in the light. So if you select the light, you'll find you can go into the properties to change that. But there's another problem. So I'm going to fix a couple of problems at the same time. Notice how they look like they're coming from these black pits, which looks a bit strange. It's got the lighting on the rim, but then there's nothing inside. And it's because by default the light source doesn't show. It'll emit light, but it doesn't show light at its source. So I've made another light that's basically just a copy of this, but it does glow. And so what I'm going to do is just select one of them, right click, select all instances, in entire project, go to edit type, load, and then go to the Revit library folder on the P drive, lighting fixtures, and there's the one I've made which glows. Downlight recessed can glow. Okay, so it's exactly the same light, but it glows. Now, at the same time, I'm going to adjust that temperature setting because this is set up as an incandescent light. Normally, downlights that you buy like this nowadays are going to be LEDs, and they'll be cooler, and you can even make them cooler than an LED. So you can do there are fluorescent ones as well. But here you can see if you go to the presets, they don't actually have an LED preset, but you've got these D50 and D65 which give you a good starting point. So that's 5000K, and then D65 6500K. That may be a little bit too cool. I don't mind that one, I use that quite a bit, but then for this I'd say D50. It's got a neutral, maybe a little bit on the warm side, but yeah, basically neutral. So all I've done there is change the colour, left everything else as it was, and now if I go back to render, so cooler, which is better I think in this case, and so we've got warm materials, and cool light, as long as it's not too cool, can actually work really well with warm materials. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I can still fine tune it with exposure later, but I'm not trying to do it all in exposure. And that way you can get a range of different lighting temperatures as well, instead of you know, having to again try and do it all with exposure. So and notice again the light is glowing. No, didn't touch it. No. It's just the colour has changed. So this is still on draft. When we render with higher quality, that will look much, much better. And you can also, once you get this working, try out sun and artificial. So I need to go back to check. I've got sunlight coming in, and I do. So I'm just going to try a render with sun and artificial. It's a bit more difficult to get this working, so it's good to try it out with nice simple spaces and simple lighting setups like this. Okay, so we need to increase the quality quite a bit to make that look any good. And also going into adjust the exposure, we can make it a bit darker. It's going to be much harder to balance it out. So I'll probably have to increase the light's brightness and do lots of things. So it can be quite difficult to make that one work well. So normally either sun or artificial is easier to set up. Right, but you know, you can set these things up well before you finish your design, and then you can go and keep changing things and adding in more detail, and then you know when you go to set up the render that half the work's done and it's going to look at least okay, and then you can obviously enhance it further. So going back to the level below, where are we? So back to the view here. Right, so these studio lights, I want to change to light fittings, but I can't. If I try to choose one of these ceiling hosted lights, it'll give me an error. So I can't use this type in this host because there's no host essentially. So there, a couple of tricks. You can put a ceiling in and then put ceiling hosted lights in, and then hide the ceiling in all the views where you want to see it, where you don't want to see it, and the lights will stay there. So that works. It's a bit messy though, and because you'll want to use particular light fittings, what I do there is make lights, and it's not as hard as you might think. So that's what I'll show you next, but I'll do that in another video. So unless anyone's got any questions about lights. No, that's good. Okay, so I'll just